I think you usually play Gundogan in like a false nine sort of position. And for me, I reckon the interchange you see with Gundogan, Foden and De Bruyne when he like sits in the sort of centre attacking mid position, I think that just suits City players like down to a T.
The City have got so many players that can just fill in that little slot. So it'd be stupid for them not to, really. Because if they can keep rotating, then it's indefendable, really. It's a nightmare for defences.
Especially when you've got like Foden, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva, and then like Mahrez that could all play that position, and they're all just moving around all the time, and it's so hard to mark them. It just gives them like all the space that they need.
And would you say Sterling, not that he doesn't fit into that sort of like interchange in front four sort of, but do you think when he's not got a striker to focus off, like he usually focuses his movement based off a striker? Yeah. What would you say? Do you think he's sort of not what's the opposite of benefit? He's at a disadvantage to the rest of the forwards because he's not got a striker to pin his movement off.
Yeah, definitely. I think like, in like the 100-point season, obviously we had like Aguero and Jesus playing up front for the most of this season, and I think they would probably just like keeping the two like centre halves in the box, and Sterling was just getting at the back stick all the time on like everyone's
peeling off
crosses.
The right back.
Yeah.
Like Sterling kind of went where the striker wasn't, so he'd read where the striker was going and then just fill in the gap, the space that opened up following that. But I feel like when you've got so many players who are moving into that position, it's way harder to actually find that little pocket because you don't know when it's going to appear.
Also, I think with, it's more his job to drag people out rather than like get into the space, if you know what I mean.
He's more like ghosting into the box, isn't he? Where it's untracked.
And I feel like he was getting used more at the start of the season just to drag full-backs out wide, just so like Cancelo could, run through the middle. Yeah, because he's basically been playing as a centre mid all season. Yeah, centre mid, right back.
So saying all that, obviously coming against PSG, who have defended quite well, even though they didn't have Marquinhos. I'll come to you first, Lewis. Do you reckon City need a striker going forward into this match and in the future as well?
I think short term, probably not.
Against PSG?
Yeah, because I think obviously this season we've been playing better without a striker and just with using false nines a lot of the time. But I think long term, I don't think it'll last, and I feel like people will start adapting to the way City are playing, and they'll just end up dropping deeper and stuff to defend against them again.
Because then the interchange wouldn't really drag people out of position. Is there anything else that City did? Obviously, we were talking about the interchange on the left wing. That usually happens when Cancelo comes in, and that leaves them vulnerable for a counter-attack, you could say. Do you think there's anything else, any weaknesses in City's performances against Dortmund that could be exploited by PSG going into the semi-final?
I feel like you just pointed out that right hand side, that little pocket, that little zone between that little zone.
Everything's so small.
Right, let's just change it. That zone between the right back and the centre back. Yeah. I feel like Haaland dropped into that zone intentionally because he knew he could outmuscle Stones, which is why.
Which he did. And it led to the goal.
Both goals in both legs as well.
Yeah. So I feel like that's definitely something that teams can look at, especially even though PSG don't necessarily have that focal striker who can actually pin a centre back. I feel like if you can get Mbappe in that zone, he'll equally do as much damage because he's just electric.
There are some real nightmare matchups I think in that game for City. Like, say if we go for Zinchenko on the left, then
do you think
he'll be up against Di Maria.
Happen?
That's a big weakness, I think, in City's team.
I mean,
defensively wise,
we've seen in the Champions League, Cancelo's been playing left back and Walker in right back. Yeah. We saw that against Mönchengladbach, where Cancelo was unplayable.
I was saying last night, I know like Walker, as good as an athlete as he is, I still don't think he's like a match for Mbappe. I think Mbappe has him on toast. To
be fair, his problem is that he's rash.
Yeah, exactly. So he's just gonna kick him, and it's just,
even though do you reckon he's fast as Mbappe?
No,
probably not. I don't think there's many people faster than Mbappe.
But Walker's probably the closest you're gonna get.
He's probably up there, yeah.
But I mean, a lot of the commentary against PSG, the commentators kept saying, do you work early against Mbappe? Mm-hmm. In that sense, Walker, he's quite over-aggressive, zealous, he overcompensates quite a bit. Do you reckon in that sense, Walker in right back against Mbappe, doing his work early, high up the pitch, is a decent matchup?
Yeah, I think he can, he's not just quick, he's like very physical as well, which I think no one's been physical and has got close enough to Mbappe, and no one's been quick enough and not physical enough, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But Walker has both, so maybe he might cause him a few problems, but I doubt it. I think Mbappe's quality.
So you think, I mean, the matchup that you said on the left wing that Haaland exploited sort of against City, PSG have been using a 4-4-2 sort of counter-attacking system against Bayern. And in that system, you've seen Draxler play as the left mid with Neymar and Mbappe as the two strikers. Neymar more so like a false nine. What I'm trying to say is that they all like to drift over into the left wing, which is where the little zone is there to exploit. Do you think that PSG will set up like they did against Bayern? Obviously, they had the injuries to Verratti and Marquinhos, so it was sort of like they were forced to. But Marquinhos being back, Verratti being back, do you think they'll take the game to them, or do you reckon they'll look to exploit City on the counter attack in that left attacking zone?
I think they'll do exactly that, because I feel like it's only really been United so far in the Champions League that's actually stopped that, that's nullified that, and we played a 5-back against PSG.
Against PSG,
and PSG came to play. And as long as you can soak up all that pressure, I think you've got in Neymar and Mbappe.
Yeah,
they're just so good on the counter attack.
Yeah.
Do you think PSG is the best counter-attacking team in the world? I'm not saying that they're purely counter-attacking, because they've got more to the game than counter-attacking.
I think they're better counter-attacking teams, but I think they're up there in the top 5.
Like who?
I can't think of anybody.
United's one of them.
Better than PSG?
I'm not sure.
To be fair, your question was counter-attacking.
Yeah.
I see what he means. When a team comes at us, I feel like there's no better team at actually exploiting a team's weaknesses defensively when they come at a team like United. I feel like PSG are another team like that as well. If a team comes at them, then
City in particular,
they're going to score goals. I feel like they are. We saw that against Bayern. Even though Bayern didn't necessarily come at them for the whole of the two legs, I felt like
I'd disagree. I'd say they did. The amount of chances they made, but
I felt like there was a period in the first game where they didn't do it.
I'd say the first game it was 3-2, wasn't it? 3-2.
Yeah, it's 3-2, but I think there was 20 minutes where they were just defending. And because they play such a high line, PSG were just able to exploit it.
And City are sort of guilty of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So obviously you can afford to do that when you've got the pace of Walker, and Bayern have the pace of Davis as well. But then again, we've seen that Stones and Diaz were guilty of being out-muscled by Haaland in the first leg against Dortmund. So do you think they're supplementing someone like Moise Kean or Icardi into that mix-up with Mbappe, Neymar?
I think it's a risk
for PSG.
I think it's a risk for PSG to play a central striker, considering how well it's been working. And especially since we've just talked about that left-hand side for City being a vulnerable area, I feel like you put a striker in there, you almost take that away from them, because they can't interchange the same way with Draxler and the two strikers as Neymar and Mbappe. So I feel like they just shouldn't play the central striker.
Saying that, Moise Kean does like to take up left-sided positions. When he came on for Draxler in the second leg of the Bayern match, we saw that, and he's also got the physical ability and a hold-up ability that Draxler doesn't have. So I'd say, for me, Moise Kean over Draxler against City.